Hello and welcome to the Fulhamish YouTube channel. My name is Don Betts, and on today's video we're looking ahead to Sunday's clash at Villa Park against obviously Aston Villa. And joining me is Craig from Under a Gaslit Lamp, the Aston Villa podcast. How are you doing, mate?
I am doing very well. Thank you very much for having me. Looking forward to talking to you and looking forward to the game on Sunday.
Yeah, it should be a very interesting game. Obviously, not many Fulham fans want to talk about the reverse fixture because it was sort of the story of the beginning of our season where 5 minutes into a game we're already in a losing position. But if we look at sort of Aston Villa's season so far, how would you compare how it's gone to sort of how you expected it to go?
I think most Villa fans expected us to be better than last season because we made some good signings. But I think very few of us expected us to be so good. Unfortunately, after Christmas, our form has kind of gone out the window a little bit, which has left a little bit of a sour taste in the mouth of some of the fans. But overall, for us staying up from us staying up last season by just 1 point to being comfortable in mid-table, with 10 games to go, maybe even with an outside chance of Europe. I mean, it can't be anything but an excellent season for Aston Villa so far.
Yeah, what do you think has changed this season compared to last? Is it just the impact of certain signings like Bob Ross Barkley, Ollie Watkins, or do you think something has changed in the mentality of the players? What do you think has made you so different to the Aston Villa we saw last season?
I think it started actually after Project Restart last season. I think if not for the COVID lockdown, I think lots of Villa fans are in agreement that we were going down. Our defense was shocking. We couldn't really score a goal. All of our games were like basketball games. But during Project Restart, Dean Smith and John Terry and the other coaching staff really sorted out the defense. So we were much harder to score against and we were much harder to beat. We still weren't scoring a lot of goals in Project Restart, but we were much more solid. And I think we've carried that solid defense through to this season. And now we've got a real excellent base to build on. We've kept 14 clean sheets this year, which is incredible from where we were last year. And Emi Martinez particularly has been, for me, our signing of the season. I think he has helped transform the defense. And I think that when you know that you don't need to score 2-3 goals every week to win a game of football, it makes a big difference.
Yeah, obviously in reverse fixture, we saw what Jack Grealish can do if you're not up to scratch to your game. Do you think your dip in form has simply got to do with Jack Grealish not playing, or do you think that's sort of an easy excuse to kind of make, and there are other factors involved?
I think there's other factors involved. I think that we really fell out of form after our COVID scare. So I think 10 or 11 of our first team players had COVID. We don't exactly know who. But we know that since we had the COVID break, we had to miss a couple of fixtures. I think with Everton and Tottenham, those games got postponed. And when we came back, since we came back, we just have not been the same team. And then that was exacerbated by the loss of Jack Grealish in the last few games. But what lots of probably neutrals didn't notice is we were playing this badly when Grealish was still in the team when we came back after Project Restart. So for sure, Jack Grealish is a big miss. Obviously, no prizes for guessing that he's our best player by a country mile. And definitely not having him around hasn't helped. But I don't think it's the only reason for our drop-off in form since Christmas.
And obviously, Ollie Watkins is a player that Fulham fans will know well. Obviously, we played him during our time in Championship when he was at Brentford. We were sort of semi-linked to him in the summer. Do you think he's really added to Villa's front line what you were missing last year?
Yeah, well, I think we had major injuries as well last year. So on New Year's Day, I believe, last year away at Burnley, Ben Mee chopped Wesley, our big summer signing last year, in half, and he's not played since. Did his knee ligaments completely gone, and we also lost Tom Heaton, who was a really important voice for us as well at the back. And we also had lost John McGinn a few days before. So losing those players really made an impact last season, but. And then we were kind of patched up front. We had Keenan Davis, who wasn't quite ready. We had Samatta, who also was not quite up to standard. And so this year, bringing in Ollie Watkins from the Championship, I think he surprised a lot of Villa fans. I think his work rate is just insane. His numbers, his high intensity runs are insane, and also he's come up with 10 league goals, which is no mean feat. In your first season, new team, new league, and obviously just a couple of weeks, just last week now, he's scored on his debut for England. So it's a real rags to riches story for Ollie Watkins, and we're delighted to have him. He has made a real difference for sure.
Well, yeah, I think a lot of people forget when it comes to Ollie Watkins. Obviously, this is only his second season playing as a number 9. Obviously, he was sort of a wide player, number 10 for Brentford. Obviously, Thomas Frank moving there last season. But we're looking at this game from a Villa perspective and looking at the rest of the season, really. What are Villa fans' aims and expectations sort of for the closing stages of this season? Is it just trying to, return to some of the form we were seeing in the beginning?
Yeah, I think there's individual goals for the players. I think there's been rumors in the national press today that Jack Grealish might be missing out on the Euros for in place of Jesse Lingard, which to me seems crazy. But anyway, so Jack Grealish is coming back to prove a point. He has to pick up where he left off. He has to hit the ground running. He needs to score goals, starting against Fulham, hopefully, and he needs to cement his place in that Euros squad. Same thing with Watkins if he wants to be in the squad. Ezri Konsa felt unlucky and hard done by not to be in this most recent squad. Tyrone Mings. So we've got players who have got personal battles in terms of trying to get into the Euro squad to the end of the season. But overall, as a club, I think that we want to address the slump in form we've had since Christmas. We've also got lots of young players that we'd like to see blooded, I think, and given chances in the team. A young striker, Louis Barry, who neutrals might remember from scoring the wonderful goal for our under-18 team, basically, against Liverpool in the FA Cup. We've got Chuki Chukwemeka as well, a young winger called Philogene Bidace. So we've got a few young players that we'd like to see probably get their first Premier League minutes in the last 10 games or so. But I think Europe is probably gone, realistically. Obviously, we're not going down. So the main thing for Villa fans, at least for me, is this is the first season probably in the last 7 or 8 where we haven't had anything really on the line. We're not fighting for promotion. We're not fighting against relegation. So it's actually quite a nice position to be in where we can kind of relax and enjoy the last few games of the season.
You also talk about your battle for promotion. Obviously, everyone will remember Fulham's playoff win over Aston Villa. But a lot of Villa fans I've spoken to have said that if they did go up that day, it would have been too early. Do you agree with that?
Yes, and no. I think the main thing is that we had really poor owners and governance at that time. We had Dr. Tony Jarre, who may or may not be a doctor. We also had a gentleman by the name of Keith Wyness as our chief executive, who Everton fans will know well, and not for good reasons. And we had Steve Bruce, who we're seeing what kind of football he serves up. And what these 3 people had done between them is they had really bet the whole farm on us getting promoted against Fulham. And obviously they came up short. And then, you may not have seen, but I mean, it was in the national press. Just a few days later, the club were on the brink of bankruptcy. We were not able to pay our tax bill. We had to remortgage a car park. It was really, really dangerous what they did to the club. So actually, us not going up was a blessing because it meant that Zia, we got him out of the club. We got these new owners in Wes Edens and Nassef Sawaris, who are, I think the third richest owners now in the league, and obviously we've gone from strength to strength. So it was definitely a blessing not going up with that shower of ownership that we had and staying in the championship for another year. But it certainly didn't feel like a blessing on that day. I was devastated, especially after Ryan Fredericks had stamped on Grealish and got away with it.
Yeah, a lot of Villa fans always point to that moment in the game. But if we're looking ahead to the game on Sunday, and if we're looking at the Fulham team, what areas of this Fulham team do you think Villa fans and the Villa team will be most worried about?
I think Anguissa, I think, is a top player. I think he's a player I'd love to see at Aston Villa. Lookman, obviously, is definitely a danger man. I think lots of us have got a soft spot, at least I do, for Madja from the Sunderland Till I Die documentary, and it was nice to see him get a couple of goals. And Mitrovic has always been a player that has been linked with Villa again and again over the years. It's always like we've been in for him. I know he's just scored, I think, 5 goals for Serbia in 3 games or something. So he's always a danger as well. I mean, I don't know why. I don't know what Fulham fans think, but what he hasn't thus far, and hopefully he doesn't start on Sunday. Mitrovic doesn't seem to have been able to really transfer his championship form into the Premier League. Is it just that he's a top championship striker, or?
I think this season, 2 seasons ago when we got embarrassingly relegated, I think it's literally on this day when we got relegated 2 years ago, and I think we had a goal of minus 46 at the time. But he still scored over 10 goals in that Premier League season. This season, I think he hasn't had as many opportunities as he has, and I think the way we play hasn't necessarily suited Mitrovic's game, and that's he's not like he's starting week in week out. We've had Cavallero through the middle, we've had Bobby Reed there, we've had obviously Josh Madge as you mentioned. So, but I think what this international break has shown is we need to find a way to get Mitrovic in this team and firing and get him the service that he needed. Because if you look at some of the goals he scored for Serbia over the last week, they're not just crossed the ball in and he's headed it in. There's goals he scored from outside the box. There's, when he chipped the Ireland goalkeeper from 20, 25 yards out. So he's definitely a player we know. There's no Fulham fans who will not love Alexander Mitrovic. The amount of goals he scored for us, even when he came on loan from Newcastle. I think, before this season, he probably had a record of like 1-2 or something crazy like that. He was the top goal scorer in all 4 English leagues last season. The ability is there. We know he can do it in the Premier League. We saw it kind of 2 years ago. So I think it is on Scott Parker now to find a way to fit Mitrovic in. And when Fulham fans are looking at this Villa side, obviously anyone who plays fantasy football knows you've got a good defence, because they'll have like a Mings or a Conser, or obviously we know Matt Target, Martinez. But from the poor form we have seen from Aston Villa, since in the last probably 6 weeks or so, where do you think the weaknesses have been?
I think the weaknesses have been in creativity, which, anyone who watched us in the first half of the season would be like, we were statistically and aesthetically one of the most creative teams in the league. We were creating chances for fun. If anything, we just were struggling to finish them. Players like Trezeguet being serial offenders, and even Watkins, as well as he's done, he's underperformed his XG this season. He should really have a couple more goals. He's been unlucky with some tight VAR calls, and he's hit the woodwork 7 times. But even so, he should still have more goals than he already has. So we were creating chances for fun before this COVID outbreak at the club. So I think that has been the big problem in the last few weeks. We've still been relatively defensively sound, barring a couple of lapses against Tottenham and against Leicester. But really, we've struggled to create, and that has been really obviously highlighted by the lack of Jack Grealish. But fortunately, the lads have had a couple of weeks off. Obviously, Watkins should be walking on air after his first international goal. Grealish is coming back into the team with a point to prove. So I would hope that with those two, particularly with Grealish back in the team, that won't be a problem. We don't really worry about the defense anymore, which is really a nice thing to be able to say.
Yeah, you speak about your lack of creativity there. Do you think that means that winning the midfield battle as such is going to be a key deciding factor in this game?
Yeah, I think we have to. I think Anguissa is exactly the kind of player that we miss. I think he's got everything that you need, and I do worry about him. But John McGinn as well had a good international break. He got 3 goals for Scotland. He hasn't been in poor form, but he's kind of been playing within himself, I think, for Villa. We've got a young Brazilian midfielder, Douglas Luiz, who's got a lot of ability, but he's still only 22, 23. But certainly for us, I think we need to have transitions quickly. I think we need to get Grealish one-on-one with your fullback, whoever that's going to be. He'll probably have them on toast just because he's Jack Grealish. And that's the way we're going to try and look to work openings. And obviously, we've got to be resolute the other end, because particularly Lookman. And Lookman always looks dangerous to me. Whenever he gets the ball, you feel like he can make something happen. He can go either way. He's got a goal in him. He's got an assist in him. And I think he's a big talent. So the midfield battle will be important, but I think it's going to come down to who has the best penetration either side. And I think that hopefully on Sunday for us, it's going to be Aston Villa.
Yeah, when looking at Aston Villa, obviously, your home record hasn't been great this season, and a lot of teams, Fulham have only won 2 home games this year, and they're both against the only 2 teams below us in Sheffield United and West Brom. But is that a cause concern for this Villa side? Do you think that if you did have a better home record, that you would actually be pushing for Europe?
I think that we've lost some stupid games and we've lost some stupid goals, and I think that we just have we haven't really got the experience. We don't have top end Premier League experience throughout the team. But in terms of the home record, I think that Dean Smith has said there is no home and away anymore. It's kind of the same thing. So any home advantage that we had with the whole 10 full and Villa Park roaring us on has disappeared. And Where we've lost in home form, we've picked up in away form. Last season, we only won one game away from home the whole year. Two games, which was Norwich and Burnley, two not fantastic sides. Whereas this team, this year we've gone away to places like Arsenal and won. So I think that obviously the absence of fans has made a big impact on that. But I would still hope that with Grealish back fit and with us really needing to make sure our season doesn't fizzle out, we'll have enough on Sunday to overcome Fulham.
So if you're looking at the Villa team you expect to play on Sunday, what would you say is sort of an expected lineup that Fulham fans can expect?
You can expect the back five picks itself, which is Emi Martinez, our wonderful Argentinian goalkeeper we signed from Arsenal. Right back is going to be Matty Cash, another good signing that you guys will be familiar with from the Championship at Notts Forest. Konza, another Championship guy actually from Brentford, will be right centre back. Obviously, Tyrone Mings will be left centre back. Matt Targett, who you Fulham fans will be really familiar with, will be lining up at left back. And just a word on Matt Targett, he's probably been Villa's most improved player this season. He's like a different beast. In midfield, I would expect that we're going to see Douglas Luiz and John McGinn. It's going to be probably a 4-2-3-1 formation. Douglas Luiz and John McGinn sitting in front of him. Probably it's either going to be Sanson or Barkley. Barkley has been bang out of form. I mean, talk about falling off a cliff. Villa fans would have snapped your hand off to sign Ross Barkley in January, but since his hamstring injury, he has been, to describe his form as poor would be generous. So probably because Ross Barkley's been so badly out of form, I think we'll probably see Morgan Sanson in that number 10 position. And then you'll have Grealish on the left, Bertrand Traore on the right, and Ollie Watkins will be up front. And I think that will be the Villa team that you can expect.
And looking at the rest of the season before we get into your prediction for the game, is there anything more from this Villa team that you need to have a good season, or is it just simply if we get a top 10 finish, that's great, and we can push on next season?
I think that because the season's been so topsy-turvy and because we were in such a good position with games in hand, just even going into kind of the Christmas period, I think that some Villa fans will feel disappointed, like it's an opportunity missed to really get into at least the Europa League this year. You've seen what West Ham are doing, and I don't think West Ham are better than we are, obviously, because they're pushing in the top four, but they're not that much better, if that makes sense. So I think it will be a missed opportunity. But I think if we can finish the season with 50 points plus and we can be in the top half of the table, I think that that's a great platform for us to build on next season and to try and attract the next level of player who can take us into that kind of top 6, top 7, pushing for European football every season.
And as I said, if I can push you for a score prediction for the game, Craig, what are you going to go with?
I'm going 3-1 Aston Villa. I think Jack Grealish, Ollie Watkins, and I think I had Ezri Konza on the score sheet. I think that Villa have been really... I think that in terms of timing, I think if you had played Villa before the international break and before Jack Grealish was back in particular, I probably would have gone for a draw or maybe even a Fulham 1-0 win. But I think with Grealish back, I think with the Watkins story, I think that lots of our international players, our South American players, haven't had to fly all over the world, so they're going to be fresh. John McGinn's coming back in with a boost from his Scotland performances. So I think that we're pretty much going to be full strength on Sunday, and I think that that's going to be too much for Fulham. Although I do hope that Fulham stay up.
Are you, with the return of Jack Grealish? Obviously, we've been speaking about it. Can you and with obviously as you mentioned, Ollie Watkins' goal for England? Do you think this international break, as we mentioned, has come at a good time, and the return of Grealish, Watkins in good form, is hopefully just going to bring the levels up of the rest of this Aston Villa side?
Yeah, and I think also we just hit the wall. I think like a lot of teams, there's been a lot of games, a lot in a short space of time, and I think that we needed a bit of a rest, a bit of a reset. Normally, international breaks, you don't want to go. The international break was a welcome break for us because we needed to hit the reset button. We needed to get Jack Grealish fit. We needed to rest up some of our players, and again, I don't know who had COVID, but for sure the energy levels have not been the same since that COVID outbreak. So again, just get some of those players a couple of weeks to refresh and recharge. I think that this international break has come at a really good time, and I do expect now Villa to be back to their pre-Christmas best going into the rest of the season.
Well, thank you very much for coming on the YouTube channel, Craig. Do you want to let everyone know where they can find, obviously, the content that Under a Gaslit Lamp are posting?
Yeah, you can follow us on Twitter on @VillaLamp, and that will show you where the podcast is. And also, there's lots of fantastic articles on the website. We have wonderful contributors, Reagan Foy, Andy Bates, Mark Jerobe, some of my podcasting friends also do wonderful articles up there. You can follow me @Craig Storrod on Twitter, and I look forward to the game. I do hope that Fulham stay up. I hope that Steve Bruce goes down. I think Fulham play nice football. I think they're a good club, and I think the Premier League's better for having Fulham in it. But I just don't hope that resurgence starts on Sunday, unfortunately.
Yeah, it should be a very interesting game. Obviously, we really need in these last sort of 7-8 games to really push on. But you knows what can. We saw our great escape in 07-08. Who knows what can happen? As you mentioned, Villa were in a similar situation sort of this time last season, and we saw you guys get out of the situation. Obviously, we've got this game on the last day at home to Newcastle, which could have fans there, and that could really be the push we need. So all we really need to beat in that game is just 3 points in touch and distance of Newcastle and can really push on. But this has been the Fulhamish YouTube channel, looking ahead to obviously Sunday's clash at Villa Park against Aston Villa. Thank you very much, Craig from Under a Gaslit Lamp, for coming on. I've been Don Betts. See you guys next time.